It's better to shut up in the name of keeping the peace. But if that's you, and it certainly was me, how did we get to the point of following such bad advice well into adulthood? First, I want to know who told us that it's being moral or mature to keep the peace, because there's a massive hole in that advice. Of course, when you cave, then it allows the other person to feel better. But that, my person, is quite literally silently killing your own peace. That is fake peace. It's a bandage. We should be calling it keeping the chaos quietly, because while it sounds noble, it's being conflict avoidant. Here's probably the biggest reason why we do it. Because you want to be a good person. When you're the peacekeeper, you get to be called the bigger person. Oh yes, that means I'm easygoing, but also it feels good to be described as the drama-free one. If anyone had a problem with me or called me some kind of name, well, they're wrong, because look how understanding I am. I'm so mature. Look, now in real maturity, someone telling me, Janice, be the bigger person, what that really means is this. This is uncomfortable for me, and I would like you to endure the disrespect to keep my life easier. Oh no, my friend. Real peace comes after a lot of work. To just name a few, and please tell me in the comments anything I miss, but real peace involves speaking your truth, making boundaries clear and enforcing them. All parties involved need patience for repairs to develop naturally, and you have to be able to look at yourself and be accountable. And there's also grief involved, because sometimes you have to let there be a metaphorical death of a relationship or a family member, and there's also got to be negotiation, a healthy back and forth, so you can say what you want and they can also be free to speak. But all that, what it takes to keep real peace, that's uncomfortable. And many of us didn't learn how to stay confident in the face of conflict. So people like that, and I'm including myself here, no judgment, but we look at conflict as something to avoid because we believe we'll be labeled as difficult, or God forbid, we'll be called too sensitive or emotional or maybe disruptive, even if we're telling the truth and even if what we're saying is totally legitimate. But if you're the person who points out dysfunction, yes, you might be seen as a threat. But that's because the people that you're confronting them with change, and to them, change is scary. And that's why people don't always have the kindest reaction to honest talk. But if you're afraid of what comes out of your mouth authentically without curating every sentence, maybe in the past you had bad reactions from people when you said what you wanted to say. And I feel for you. But either way, it is pure fantasy to think that you can curate a frictionless relationship. When you confront or speak your mind, they'll either learn by it when you confront them, or your life actually just got a lot more peaceful because they leave and you don't have to deal with that person anymore. So I'm just here to say, to just be open to that being a myth. That's a fear. It's not based on 100% reality. I had a dream about this last night, so that's why I had to make this video. The dream had me talking very loudly like a quintessential New Yorker, and someone else in the dream didn't like it. And I said, well, that's just how I talk. So it reminded me that if you're always trying to be the mediator, I grew up feeling this way. There wasn't space for you to develop and make mistakes and test out who you are and how you want to show up, because there's already someone or some people like mom and dad who are more messed up than you. And so you put yourself in this role of mediating or essentially keeping the peace, and you sort of are compelled to do it because it's uncomfortable when there's not peace. When people are losing their minds around you, when people are abusing you, stuck in their own patterns, stuck in their own world, worried about their own things. It's more like you want peace, because when there's peace, then there's not being abused. Nothing bad is happening to you. So it's in your best interest to keep it like that, obviously. And how that shows up later in life is it becomes very difficult to enjoy life. But you could go a step further and say it's difficult to have intimate partnerships, and it's difficult to have closeness even with your own family or your own kids. Even if you love them more than anything in the world, it's difficult to be close. It's difficult to be authentic with them, because they're the ones that matter the most to you, and you don't want to screw anything up. You learned that when there's not peace, then there's chaos, or there's just bad abusive stuff happening. So you just automatically take that role on as you grow up, as you become an adult, because if things are not peaceful, then that means something is wrong. That means you're not a good parent, or you're screwing up your kids, or essentially failing. So what psychology calls this, and I'm probably actually going to use the wrong terms, but this is like trauma brainwashing. It's your brain being programmed because of the way things were early in your life. So if you crave peace, and that's probably a better way to say it, because just because we are a peacemaker and just because we want there to be peace, it doesn't mean that there's actual peace around you. But if you crave peace and you think that you're not succeeding if there's not peace, then you probably have this brain program that if there's not peace, then I'm a failure. Or if there's not peace, then I'm a bad parent. There also could be this programming like it's my responsibility to keep the peace. So I've seen this when we think that we are responsible for other people's reactions or comfort or happiness. What we end up doing is that we tie a rope around another person and we say, it's my job to make for sure that you're comfortable. It's my job to make for sure that things are peaceful for you. It's my job to speak to you in a way that you think is respectful. It's my job to keep the peace. And we wrap this rope around another person and we hang on to it tightly and say, this is my expectation and I'm holding you to it. And then that's why a lot of times we feel disappointed by another person. But that disappointment is actually because we had an expectation for that person and we were holding on to that. But that's an unhealthy attachment. That's an unhealthy tie or chain that you're bonding that person to. You can't control another person's behavior or responses, but you can say, I don't like that, and then walk away, or don't text back, or hang up on them. Whenever they do that, it's on them if they have a problem with that, not you. We were not allowing that person to be responsible for themselves. We were not allowing that person to figure out their own stuff, or at least we were focused on how we thought that they needed to figure things out. We need to let go of that rope. We need to say, okay, I release this expectation on you. And that means that person is energetically free, or more free than they were before you were holding this rope around them. And they might just surprise you. Let it be okay that there's possibly not a sense of peace. Why does there have to be peace? The lack of peace is possibly your mindset. It might be your definition of peace to look at. Some people, and I'm specifically thinking about just walking down the streets in New York City, some people really like that noise. And that reminds me, I'm going to use some words, and then let's look at those words and what they imply. Some people really like noise. Some people like chaos. Some people like yelling. It's true, some people do. I'm trying to specifically now think of something like that you would see in New York City that might not be for everyone, like crowded subways. Okay, some people like crowds. That's a good word, crowds. Some people like it crowded. Those words, to me, when I say them, they imply some sort of negativity. So think about that. Think about the words you say, because they directly show the ropes that you're still holding on to. They show your perception. And I think everybody's perception can change. If you don't like lots of people around, you may not ever be that person who likes to be in a stadium, but you do not need to be affected by it negatively. You don't have to have a panic attack. You don't have to have anxiety, and you can actually enjoy it. Doesn't mean you're the kind of person who necessarily likes it or wants it, but you can enjoy it. Okay, so I wanted you to listen to those words and think about them. Noise. Okay, some people like noise. Noise is negative, at least my definition of noise. What if instead of noise, we use the word sound? A sound is just a fact. There's a vibrational thing happening and my ear is picking it up, and that's called sound. So just shifting your definition or shifting your word is a really important step in shifting the way that you enjoy life. Don't you want to enjoy life? Don't you want to enjoy your time? If you're going to be working 40 hours a week or more and then coming home and maybe you have a family or maybe there's hobbies or even a second job, don't you want to enjoy that as much as you can? The reality is you may not ever be rich. You may not ever be in a situation where you're not just trying to make ends meet. If that is your reality, and I know it's a reality for millions of people, do you not still deserve and want to enjoy your time in this world? I think the answer is yes. But make no mistake, even when you have financial freedom, this wound, your non-beneficial perception, the disconnection with enjoyment, doesn't just go away. It actually just makes it more apparent. So pay attention to the words and the definitions that you give those words. Another word that I said was crowds. Okay, I think that also has a negative connotation. So what would be the way to say that if you still want to be open to enjoying? So instead of crowds, you could say, let me think about it. Tap into my inner thesaurus. Groups. Thinking about it as groups sounds a little bit better. You're being open to enjoyment. You're being open to the possibility that there could be something enjoyable about this. Like, oh wow, look at that group of people. That just sounds better than, oh wow, look at that crowd. It sounds like there's no space or you're going to be pushed or shoved. Okay, and the other word that I said, chaos. Let's look at that. Oh gosh, there's so much chaos. Oh, I don't like to go home at night because there's chaos. How can we be open to enjoying this? Yeah, this is a challenge, right? What's the word? How do we reframe this? Activity. Imagine even if you said, I don't like to go home because there's so much activity. I think you're still open when you say that. You're still open. You don't like it. Remember, I said it's okay if you don't like it, but you're still open to it. And then maybe you can ask, could I shift some of those activities? Or could I look at the word and let it mean something more enjoyable? And even find some activities that I actually would want to come home to. What activities do I enjoy? It surprised me when I first started asking myself these questions. I didn't even know what enjoyment was. I was so far removed from joy that I was like, say what? But anyway, this is the way to start reframing and reprogramming. So previously your programming was, it's not okay for there to be chaos. Now it becomes, I'm open to being around activities. Now I know some of this might sound like, oh, I'm just trying to be positive. No, I'm not really. It's about looking at things differently. Like, why isn't that okay? If I use the word chaos, well, why isn't that okay? Some people really like it. Some people like lots of activities. Why isn't that okay? It's okay for them. So think about it like, oh, maybe I have some kind of hang up with this because I have a trauma associated with it. You may not know what it is, and that's okay also. You may just feel like you were always that way, you were born that way. And then that can make it feel like there's something wrong with you, like, oh, it's a psychosis or something, because I don't know where that came from. So, there's something wrong with me. But there doesn't have to be something wrong with you. The fact is, you have this uneasiness around it. That's the fact. Why might we have these kinds of traumas or uncomfortableness around them, around there not being peace? And we have no reason for it. In fact, our sibling doesn't have that issue. Our best friend doesn't have that issue, but we do. But the strong common thread across the thousands of dreams from kind people just like you who have gone through my birth wound healing is dreams that show unknown trauma or uncomfortable feelings without being able to point to anything in particular in their life that caused it. It's a birth wound. And what is a birth wound? It's exactly what I'm saying. It's a trauma, something uncomfortable, a wound, and you don't know where it came from. You only know that you have it. And one thing that's common with a birth wound is that it seems like you've always been that way to the point that you think that it's just your personality. I'll give you an example that I think you might resonate with. This is from myself, of course. I never felt comfortable at all at parties. It's like I would immediately freeze up and feel like I never understood, what do people talk about? Like, why are all these people talking? And where are they coming up with these subjects? I could just not fathom talking, chatting, telling stories, going from person to person and striking up a conversation. It was so foreign to me. So I'm just saying, no one else in my family was like that. I came in like that, and I was that way. And even stories from when I was a toddler, I was just apparently that way. I have to give you one more example because I think you'll understand totally. Going to church. At the front of the church or before church starts, everyone would just kind of gather in the foyer, but people were there talking and conversing and joyful and all this kind of stuff. And I remember, this is probably one of my earliest memories. I think I was 3. I grabbed my mom's skirt and I hid under it. I literally was that kid hiding under their mom's skirt. And it's like I was freaking terrified of this. What is this? What is this conversing? What are people doing? And I don't know these people. That was awful. That was a birth wound. I came in with that and it followed me my whole life. The point is, let's get rid of that. You carry that and it does not serve you. It does not serve you. The hatred of parties followed me into my adult life. I would do anything I could do to not go to a party. That's how much I hated it. I am now a person who can enjoy a party. This is me now. I do not actively work at not being invited to parties. I do not actively try not to go out. I've invited parties. I have willingly gone to them and I enjoy them. And you may be wondering, can I overcome that? I did a lot of work on my birth wound. What I am promising you is that you will get your joy back. You will. It will be a huge step for you and you will pull off many layers. So obviously I'm linking the info for the birth wound journey in the comments and description, but also maybe you're just curious about me right now or curious about your dreams. Well, join my school community and bring a dream or a question. Come on, welcome.